Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh day of the South Asia lectures. Today, we're eagerly looking forward to listening to Afia Salam speak on Pakistan. Afia Salam is a master's in geography and a career journalist having 4 decades of experience of print, electronic, and web journalism. She's a former member of the Prime Minister's advisory body, National Climate Change Council, and National Coordinating Body for Marine Protected Areas. She has completed several fellowships, is a member of the IUCN Commission on Education and Communications and Commission on Economic and Social Policy. She has been highlighting issues related to environment and climate change through her writings and advocacy. As a development practitioner and activist, she is part of several civil society organizations in a voluntary capacity. She is very cognizant of her South Asian roots and is part of online platforms where South Asians interact with each other as a like minded group. Um, Her social media coordinates are here, and they're essentially her name, so you can search for her on X, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Um, the way we're going to do this today is that I'm going to be screen sharing uh, a PPT. So we may have a couple of minutes of figuring out things because I rarely do this.
My
So,
apologies for that
oh, no,
because
no,
I
no,
make
that's okay. That's okay. The learning for me too. And I also forget very quickly. So, everything. Okay, so maybe you'll just see these in edit mode. Here, I found the slideshow thing, but I can't. It's all an adventure. But
okay.
I'm going to
The
spotlight
slideshow will make them
Afia,
run
and then
one. Okay, the
there we
slideshow will
go.
actually make them run one after the other. So I think it's just one by one if we go.
Can you see?
I
Mm,
can. Yes, now
yeah.
I can see. Absolutely. So if you can
Good.
make it, yeah, perfect, perfect.
All right. Over to you.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you very much, Swarama, because, like I mentioned, the South Asian roots, you found me through South Asian networks. We had never interacted before, and I'm truly honored that you messaged me. And I thought this was such a great idea because I really do feel that we South Asians are need to strengthen our capacity and our identity as a group which has many shared problems, and I'm sure that we can search for solutions, which is what I will end my slides with. What I will do is, I know that a lot of climate information was given, but thank you for putting up that resource page. And I will be putting all the resources over there instead of, talking about them in detail here. Because all I want is actually just to have a conversation. I've seen a couple of the earlier videos. I have not yet been able to see all, and that's my loss, but I will definitely go back to them. But I feel that the sharing of ideas and even just coming together on a single platform by South Asians who feel about the climate impacts and are wanting to do something about it is important. And if you will allow me to now just start I will not be reading off the slides. I'll be just stopping and making some points over what I have on the slides itself. So can we go on to the next one? So this is, of course, map of my country. So what I'm presenting is a perspective from Pakistan. I would start with the disclaimer that this is my personal perspective. From what I have seen around me, from the people I have interacted, the forums I have been fortunate to have been a part of, And obviously, there are many environment and climate change specialists, as well as people on other forums who may disagree with me or have a differing opinion. Everybody has a right to do that, and everybody actually brings their own experiences to the table. So, thank you for providing this virtual table where I will be bringing my own perspective of what I have seen. I have sort of dabbled in the climate change environment space for about a decade and a half now with the full focus. I have been a journalist, as you mentioned in my introduction, for over 4 decades. I started as a cricket journalist and then sort of veered off because of my academic background into this space where I feel that I really need to make, more contribution because I can. I mean, because of my academic background, I feel that it is important to be able to understand not only the science but the impact of that science and how it should translate into policies and how those policies should actually impact on the people with a lens of justice, which I am again very grateful for you to you for using this one word in our discourse, because somehow this always gets left behind in the wrangling of science and social science and policy space. So next slide. So this is just a context, a global context, if I want to place my country in, is that if you can see, Pakistan is contributing less than 1% of the global emissions. So just let that sit there for a while and then look at the other slide, the bar charts, and it sits atop the global vulnerability index, especially in view of the disaster of the floods that we experienced in 2022. We've experienced them again in 2025, but of course it's a bit too soon right now to for that index to come out. I think it will be released next year or middle of the year. But 2022 placed it right at the top of the vulnerability index. So there is that injustice right there on one slide, that we are not contributing to the climate change, which is impacting the entire world, but we are being impacted. And I think that Pakistan, if you look at the list, Pakistan is obviously not the only South Asian country in that list. So, this is why now more and more in international discourses, we are hearing not just of the blocks that we are part of at forums like the COP, like the Like Minded Globe, the Group of 77 plus China. Pakistan is part of both of them. But as Global South. And of course, this is very different from the geographical South because, well, Australia is Global South geographically, but certainly not Global South in the way, it is more like the first world country. And um, so it's not in the same category. And many of the Northern African nation also fall within Global South. So we have to see in what context we are talking and how we have these shared issues, and why the platforms like the one you have offered us is so very important, so we can share ideas, we can learn from each other. So next slide. So there, so this is my key question, my sort of when I put my thinking cap on, when you put this as the topic of our lectures, because policy, usually we talk in the space of policy, then we talk about legislation, and then we talk about how that legislation is going to be implemented, etc. All those things are very important, but is there a nexus between policy and justice? Because one thing seems so impersonal, the other seems so very, very human, innate to the human nature and the environment around us. So, unless and until we try to and discover a nexus between these two, we will not be able to get a handle on the things that we need to, bring forth and see how we can try to make life less threatening, better. Adaptation is a word that is bandied about, but adaptation is at the cost of whom, and who is going to be able to say that that adaptation is the only fix? Because the countries that can mitigate, if they don't do mitigation, so we will always be stuck in that rut of adaptation. because the emissions will keep growing, the fallout will keep on happening, and we will not be anywhere except trying to do firefighting. So that is not what international obligations demand. Next question, please. Yeah, sorry, next slide. So this is what then I when you gave us that thinking point, I started asking myself that what really does a climate change policy address. It addresses issues, definitely it does. We all map our countries and we see what kind of impacts we are facing. There are different impacts, and then there are shared impacts. There are impacts that some things can be done regionally to mitigate those impacts, if not climate change itself. uh, Policy also tries to attempt solutions. Obviously, just writing a policy document is not enough unless and until you have a goal before you. But how does that policy traverse the journey to implementation? So, does that policy have a personality? Because when you're talking of justice, you're talking of it in the context of the people who are bearing the impact, and how the injustice, like I explained in the first slide. So, it's the land mass of Pakistan which is being unjustly, and of the other South Asian countries in that list, which are being unjustly impacted. But does the policy address that? Are we looking at it from the lens of people? Or is it just the landmass and we talk of biodiversity? So, all these words, uh, do they have a spirit behind them? Or are they just words we use in our documents? Are they just, mere jargons that we have become so used to throwing about that they become sort of soulless and heartless? And is that why we don't seem to be moving much ahead, in taking care of the people who are being impacted by climate change? Next slide, please. So these are the questions that I pose to myself, and these are the questions I will leave open for our other participants to just think about, and maybe either offer solutions, because obviously nobody has all the answers. I myself don't have all the answers, and I think together we can arrive at some. So, how does it address issues of justice? Now, as I mentioned, it is made obviously by humans, but does it have a human face or a heart? It talks of numbers, emissions, like I said, less than 1% emissions. It talks of scarcity or excess, scarcity of resources to be able to save the people, or excess of impacts. It looks at GDP losses, which again are numbers and percentages. It For a country sitting at the top of the global vulnerability index, it also talks of adaptation finance, and disaster management unfortunately takes the top position on a priority agenda. A country that is disaster prone prepares on its priority list. So somewhere within this mix, that justice gets lost. And that is, I think, the crux of the conversation that we would like to sort of take place over here at this forum. Because justice is not just, while we are talking about having a soul or having a human centric approach, these humans also interact with other life forms, and in most discussions that life form is somehow gets relegated into the background, and we forget about that there are other species for this planet, who live on this planet, for whom this planet was created or made, or it came about, whatever one's thinking is on that matter. And unless and until there is a holistic approach, the humans will not fare much better if they do not take care of the other life form that inhabit this same planet, because we have to live in sync. So in sync with nature is what will bring justice to the entire ecosystem as we see it. And unless that is ensured, a piecemeal approach will not get us to that goalpost. Next. So to go back to, because I'm supposed to be presenting the Pakistan context. So the big ticket items, and there are many, but I will only restrict myself to really the big ticket items on Pakistan climate change impacts is the rising heating index. So for 3 years running, Pakistan's cities, there are three cities in Pakistan which broke the record. Nothing very, something to be very happy about. It's very alarming of the heat going above 60 degrees every month, a month earlier. So 3 years ago, we reached 50 degrees and higher in, I think, in April, then in March. And our Met Department has mapped that besides the global temperature, the landmass temperature of Pakistan has gone up 1.8 degrees. Seems really minuscule, but 1.8 degrees uh, throws out of sync many of the natural systems that our entire country's economy and ecology rests upon. We are an agrarian country like our neighbor, and even they know that 1.8 degree is a lot because it impacts the agricultural cycle. We've had shorter winters, and that has had a domino effect because it has had impact not only on the agriculture but on what that agriculture contains within it. And it has been documented through research that a shorter winter means that the ripening period of the crop, which the crops require, that's why there was the spring and then transitioning into the summer, when the like wheat is a staple in Pakistan, when wheat would have its full nutrition. So the grains are now less nutritive. So that is a huge issue for a very large segment of population which depends on wheat, not just for the economy but also for its nutrition and health. So it has that whole disruption of the food chain that is impacting health, that is leading to malnutrition and leading on to stunting in a very large segment of the population which is living below the poverty line. So we are looking at climate change not as a box item of science, but as a complete, intersectional condition which is impacting your food cycle, your health cycle, obviously the income generation. And with less income, then there's less access to health care and to good food for countries which do not have access to universal health care. And my country, unfortunately, is one of those. So all these things, like a domino effect, then start impacting a very large swathe of the population. And here now I'm centering the population. I'm not even talking about the land itself only. It's the people who live on that land. The other very alarming thing is, which many of our South Asian countries are facing together, which is glacial lake outburst floods. Because as we know, in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, India, Sikkim, Bhutan, that we straddle the what is called the third pole. So outside the north and south pole, we have the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, which actually is called the third pole for a reason, that it has the largest number of glaciers there. And those glaciers are losing their snow very fast because the ground temperature has risen, and they are melting from beneath their surface. And when it rains, because obviously the temperature of the water is more than that of the surface of the snow, which has become thin, there is this huge burst, and there's a raging torrents that run down those one of the highest, no, not the one of the highest, the highest mountain ranges of the world. And they cause havoc. I think we experienced those in 2025 across India and Pakistan's mountainous regions. So that is another outcome or impact of the global temperature rising. So it is in our great interest to be those voices which call for mitigation by the big emitters, because unless and until that happens, you will be seeing, people in Nepal will be seeing barren Mount Everest and surrounding mountains. And we have also seen the snow disappearing from peaks which had always been snow clad. So this is one danger. Next slide, please. Then again, this is something I know the companion from Afghanistan had also spoken about. Just go back one slide, please. The slide before it. Maybe you can just use the back. Yeah, this. Yes, this one. So this is the shifting of the monsoon, and this is the shifting of the geographical shifting of the monsoon, which our participant from Afghanistan had also spoken about. That the areas which did not have rainfall are having rainfall now because the monsoon has shifted towards the west of Pakistan, and it is gone into those areas. So within Pakistan, from our agrarian belt of Punjab and South Punjab, and as well as the in eastern Punjab in India, in 2022, why you see us on the top of the vulnerability index is the monsoon had shifted to the west, which were the barren areas, or rather, they would be just rain dependent. And those rains were not limited. They would be catch the tail end of the monsoon. But we have also experienced what we have, for lack of any other scientific name which has been given to it just now, is a pre-monsoon, which we have experienced in April. Usually monsoons start in July. July to September is the period when people in Pakistan experience monsoon. Earlier than that, of course, in Bangladesh and India, and the winds used to come from Bay of Bengal. But now we are having the Arabian Sea monsoon, and these two systems had collided in 2022, and that is why we had that extraordinary rainfall. So this pre-monsoon happening in April, torrential rain and violent hailstorms, tennis ball size hail, and they kill livestock, because that is not the season where the farmers take their livestock into sheds. They don't expect so much rain to come. The crop is ready for harvesting, so it flattened all the crops. And we've started noticing this for the past 8 years. Some years it is very, very violent, some years less so. This year, the cities where the big media houses are, they notice this. So earlier it was just people like us who were the environmentalists and the farmers who used to bemoan this new phenomenon and new impact of climate change. But this year it hit the main cities, and there was a lot of damage to the infrastructure, to buildings, to solar panels, to cars standing out there in parking lots. And that is why everybody woke up and said, what is this happening? And this definitely is a geographical shift in the time, and the geographical shift in the monsoon pattern. And this disruption in the rainfall pattern in an agrarian country is a disruption again to the entire supply chain, about which I spoke earlier. The other is that we have a very exposed coast around 1,000 kilometers. We also have one of the largest deltas. I think it's the seventh largest delta in the whole world. Everybody knows sea level rise is a threat. We have also, because of the sea surface temperatures rising, experienced a frequency and ferocity of storms and cyclones in our coastal belt. And if we look at from the time when the meteorological records were kept, we had about over 100-year period. The number of storms which we've experienced them already in the past 10 to 12 years. So this is the frequency and ferocity of the storm, and the coastal communities are at great threat. And I think Bangladesh is one model that we look at, because they have taken some very, very commendable measures at adaptation and keeping their, the coastal communities safe, because you cannot relocate everybody. There are communities which are linked to the livelihood which the coast offers, which the sea offers. So all of them cannot be relocated. So they have taken some measures, and we are looking at them as we do look at very seriously at the kind of measures that another South Asian country has taken. That I think that those are lessons learned for us. Next, please. So then these are secondary but potent issues. Yes, desertification, because the areas which used to receive rainfall are no longer receiving rainfall. So that is leading to the degradation of the rangeland. Pakistan is a big livestock country as well, so it impacts livestock health of the soil because of the dryness. Then you get these sort of wind, almost like twisters, and it blows away the topsoil, and the soil fertility is lost. Poor air quality, which was considered to be a wholly human induced phenomenon, both again in the plains of both Punjabs. So right from Lahore to Delhi, we have this belt which in these months, in the winter months, experiences this very bad air quality. And of course, monetary loss, health loss, all these issues, health impacts. But now more and more research has been done, and the scientists are urging us to look at it as a common airshed. Like we talk of the watershed being a common watershed, and a transboundary cooperation needs across South Asian countries. Similarly, they say there's a common airshed. So Nepal also suffers from the wind that is blown towards it from India and Pakistan, the polluted air. So that means the airshed has a link to climate change. But yes, the poor air quality is human induced, because there are a lot of actions that humans are taking. We are both countries are, there's a lot of construction activity, there's industrialization, there is the transportation, which is a huge issue. The transportation, air quality, the fuel quality is an issue. So we are trying to get a handle on it, and there have been cooperation, across the borders on lessons learned on this. Pollution is also, again, it's totally human made, and there are fixes, and there are uh, you know, okay, there are fixes that need to be done in countries like us. The whole globe is suffering from plastic pollution. Solid and liquid waste management in a country which is very populous is a problem in itself. It requires behavior change, communication, because when I put my hat on, yes, there are a lot of realization, and there are cleaning activities, but if it cannot only be on one side. uh, okay, can I just speak? Maybe I'm busy, I'll just talk to you. Not now, not now. No. Can you just sit quietly or go outside? Sorry, that disruption I couldn't avoid. I tried to hide. So that was my little granddaughter thinking I had gone out. Okay, back to this. I'll talk to you in a little while. Okay, bye. Okay, so the cleaning activities that take place are not taking care, actually putting a handle on the production of waste. And until and unless that stops, we will only be cleaning up the mess that other people make. So those other people need communication and behavior change, either through legislation, but I feel that it's community action and communication which do help in taking care of these kind of issues. It's a very long term thing. Nothing happens as a quick fix. Legislation is there. Legislation doesn't really fix things unless people's attitudes change. And I think that is something that we really need to work on more aggressively. Next. I know I'm running out of time, so I'll quickly try to run through the other slides. Next one. One slide before this. Yeah, this one. So all the issues that I have actually spoken about, and this is not just about Pakistan. I interact with people of other South Asian countries, and even other countries which may not be South Asian countries, but the global South countries. We interact at international forums, etc. The issue of justice is that unless and until we are able to get ourselves out of this this we are on like that little mouse on a wheel which can't jump off. We are not going to be able to address the fundamental question of delivering justice, because resource inequity is a reality. The disaster impacts are more frequent than ever before. We are lurching from one disaster to another. We haven't really taken care or come out of one. So the resilience index is not very high. The displacement that takes place causes education disruption. It poorly impacts the health, and the rebuilding, resettlement, climate-induced migration are a very lethal mix, which push justice actually out of the equation. And we will only be able to tackle justice if we center it into this, that who are we doing all these things, who do we need the resources for, who needs those resources more than others. That is the only time that we'll be able to embed. So next slide. I just saw a request pop up to share the PowerPoint slides, and please go ahead and share the slides after this is over. No, just one slide before this. This I think is the pathway that, yes, the policy can of course be framed, and it must be framed because you have to have it right there in front of you. And then of course it requires legislation. So on that score, yes, Pakistan has a climate change policy. It be that translated into the change act. We also have the implementation document alongside it, and we have a national adaptation plan. Along with that, after these disasters, we've had a vulnerability mapping done of the country. But then the resource allocation, you cannot just tell a population that this is a place which is hazardous. We mapped it, and you move out of here. There are so many social issues that are related to, you can't just move a population and transplant them into another area, because that's where the social influences come in. And you cannot have the implementation done on a top to bottom level. The service delivery and ensuring of justice requires many other things. Next slide. I've listed them there. So the vulnerability mapping has to be done in conjunction with the community engagement, because unless and until, it can't be that we tell them that this area is vulnerable and you should no longer be living here. They also have to see it as an area which will no longer be tenable for their future generation, and they need to accept to be able to move. People don't want to move, even because they say, no, our elders lie buried over here, and this house was made by my great grandfather, I don't want to move from here. The increasing impacts of climate change and the disasters need for them to not only just understand but accept the fact that they, for the next generation, for the safety and nurturing of the next generation, they need to move. But this cannot, and we need to have this kind of an inclusion where you make a policy, you take one lens off, put the other lens off on, and then look at it and have a relook at it. Look at it from a gender angle, from a social angle. Are the fixes that we are proposing, are they disability friendly? Are all age groups on board with it? Are the youth, which will be inheriting all the problems that our generation seems to have burdened them with, will they be able to cope with it, and what kind of assistance? It cannot just be throwing money. That is not the only assistance. Psychosocial support, I feel, that is not given as much importance. So the thing I spoke about earlier, behavior change communication, along with psychosocial support and community engagement, I think these are that's a triangle, that's like a pyramid, and the community engagement has to be the strong basis, and alongside it, these two can complete that pyramid. Next slide. So to sort of close that loop, I feel that we cannot have a one size fits all. We are many of our countries, some countries are small, some have a very large landmass. India is very large. Pakistan also is very, I mean, it may be one-sixth India's size, but still, it's a large country with different eco regions. Nepal may be small, but each valley has its own unique, problems and fixes. Sri Lanka, similarly, it's an island, but it also has an island. It's an island which experiences different impacts of climate change. We saw right from the Asian tsunami how the coast that had the cover of mangroves was not as badly impacted as the coast which had stripped the mangrove for other developments. So these kind of things we all have to sit together and bring a broader clarity of communication of what will work for each different ecosystem, and have that on the table while sitting across each other, whether it's a virtual table, whether it is a physical table at a neutral country, because somehow not all of us talk to each other. But I am a great believer in track two, track three, name it what you will, but because the climate change or environment does not have a border, our conversation needs to be borderless. We need to be able to talk to each other and learn from each other. Next. So getting the key to getting, we communicate, we strengthen, we share success stories, we look for apples to apples examples and lessons and customized solution. Now I mentioned Bangladesh. The delta solutions in Bangladesh may work for some part of Pakistan's coast, they may not work for the rest of Pakistan's coast, which is very big, but there are lessons there for us to learn, and then we customize those solutions. Similarly, for air quality, India has taken some measures that we need to learn lessons from. As far as the heat which Ahmedabad and experienced in 2015, a few months before Karachi, the city which I belong to, experienced, we had the same kind of heat wave management mechanism, because people from India and Pakistan on our track 2, track 3, whatever mechanism you call it, was a regional communication network. They drew up the heat wave management plan for Ahmedabad and for Karachi, and there were people from India and from Pakistan who were working together on it. So we customized for Karachi, they customized for, but the broader principles were the same, and they were communicated to each other. So I have seen them, these, collaborative efforts successful. Next. So, I mean, here I know I'm repeating myself, because we need to, we really need a united front to face the common threat of climate change at global platforms like COPs over there. I see really, I mean, I've been at COPs as well, sitting with India and Pakistan's experts and Bangladesh's experts, taking the lead from the wisdom of Bangladeshi experts, and learning and telling everybody that these solutions can work for our country, and these solutions we must learn from, and we seek out their their scholars, their researchers from India, from Bangladesh. I know I've done that recently at conferences. I've been part of South Asian conferences being held at Nepal, where Indian and Pakistani and Nepalese and Bangladeshi people came together. I was recently a part, and I'm going to send you those links for your research page, where the Bangla Climate Change Communication Hub has been formed in Sri Lanka, where the South Asians are getting together and pulling their ideas and talking the same kind of language to find solutions. So I think that there are so many commonalities between us, that those who don't want to talk to each other, let them do what they do. But there are people who want to talk to each other and want to learn from each other. And I think we need to be part of that group of people. And I certainly want to be. And I welcome any chance that I'm offered. And thank you for this. Next. That actually is the last slide. Thank you very much. So any questions, any comments?
We invite people to leave their questions in the chat. So I want to address the question of the shared PPT. We will actually be putting the video up within about 36 hours. So I will now put the YouTube link in the chat in about 3-4 minutes, now that I can access Zoom again. And you can look up the same PPT over and over again on YouTube. So let me check. Yes, already many questions as I anticipated. But first, thank you so much, Afia. This was really wonderful. It was wonderful to finally connect with you, but also to listen to you today. I'm going to start reading questions out because that way we have them on the video as well. Getting this is from Rakhi Surya Prakash, who is from Chennai. Getting a small vulnerable population to even move temporarily during a cyclone or flooding evacuation is difficult. I guess it will be almost impossible to convince people to move due to climate vulnerability. And Riddhi Chakrabarti says diseases and impact of climate change respect no borders. Very well said.
Thank you.
Asma Pudaseni says, what would a future collaboration of South Asian countries look like in the face of climate change, considering the fact that climate migration, climate disasters, and water issues will be prominent in the region? Shall I leave these with you and then come to the rest?
So the first two, of course, are comments which I totally agree with. It is very difficult. The way I mean the way we see where we have seen small pockets of success is if you give them something better than what they are, what they have. It's not that you tell them to just move and go anywhere. So if they have livestock, they don't want to leave it behind. So if they can be given a similar kind of plan or better opportunities or alternate opportunities, if no, if like in our delta, we have seen that there has been sea intrusion. This is not yet sea level rise. There is sea intrusion taking place, which has displaced the fisher folk as well as the riverine farmers. So they've moved to other alternate livelihoods, but it has to be a better livelihood rather than the worst case choice. So these things require a lot of planning, these things require a lot of finance, these things require communications, and like I said, the community cannot be, I mean, yes, in some cases they have been in the face of raging waters, they have been forcibly moved, but they moved back to the same place. So my worry is the next time, now we know that this is this potential hotspot. If this is the pathway of the river, like one thing now that has been made, I mean, two instances I can cite from Pakistan is one that we saw there was a lot of encroachment of built area in the pathway of the rivers. And I think this is what we witnessed also in the Uttarakhand disaster as well, and Himachal. So, because I mean, there's little landmass over there in the mountainous area, so people build wherever. But in Pakistan, in Swat, they had built right next to the river, and all those buildings came. Nothing can withstand the wrath of nature. So, legislation was put in that there will be absolutely zero tolerance for any kind of buildings now coming to be built within 200 yards of both sides of the river. So that is something. Then the other is that the monsoon countries have seasonal rivers. We have the river in full spate during the monsoon, and then it shrinks after the monsoon. So people, because it has alluvial soil, it's rich alluvial soil, people not only do agriculture there, but they've started making settlements. Now the legislation is that everything will be demolished. Nobody will be allowed to build a settlement. You cannot keep building settlements in the path of rivers and then expect authorities to put in resources to pull you out in the times of flood and then give you compensation, because that is not where you should have been in the first place. So they have to learn that this is not the place where you can live. Yes, you can benefit from it, and people across all riverine areas, I mean, we've heard stories from the Pharaoh's time, in that the Nile used to flood and they used to benefit from the flood, and then there used to be dry years. So that is one way, but it's not easy. It's very, very difficult to detach people from the places they are emotionally attached to. This is why I said it has to be psychosocial as well. The other comment about disease, yes, I haven't mentioned the diseases as such here. I only mentioned the health impact, because the rising heat also is giving rise to the vector-borne diseases. The areas which had never known any kind of mosquito-borne diseases are also now suffering from dengue, chikungunya, SARS. All these kind of viruses are traveling to the warmer areas, because those areas traditionally which used to be cold are now becoming warmer. So yes, that's a very big threat. And yes, so this yes, I can share that. By the way, the Karachi action plan. I think Ahmedabad. If I find, I will search that for that also. But I will definitely share the Karachi action, which was almost like a copy paste of the Ahmedabad one and customized only to local situations in some places.
There's
Uh,
a question from Raki. Could you share more about airshed and which
yes.
areas it should focus on?
So
Like
I
in
just
India,
returned.
I'm just going to
Yes,
finish
yes,
reading
I
this so
will.
that it's on the record. Like in
Yeah.
India, we know the weakening of Aravalli. But is there any other shed that can stop the polluted cold air from reaching us?
So this is an ongoing field of research. Savannah, as you know, I was in Nepal last week, and there were many Indian scholars, researchers, as well as journalists there, along with Pakistani and people from Bhutan and Nepal, of course. And they said that this is an airshed that is bringing the polluted air. Now, earlier, as I mentioned, we thought it was just human action that was making the air polluted, but they say no, it may be human action, but the airshed is one. Like I said, environment does not have boundaries, so it is pushing that air into Nepal and into its valleys, which goes down because obviously it's heavier, and it goes and settles into the valleys. It brings it there, and not just the valleys over there. I'm sure the neighboring parts of India, the mountainous parts, so they would be experiencing the same thing. But as I said, you can look at it at the EC Mode website. They are doing a lot of research. It's a collaborative research effort, and the science has not yet, settled on this. They are still researching, and I think it's a very interesting field that we need to also follow now.
Um,
Yeah,
Reddy's comment is erratic monsoon and excessive rainfall are giving rise to vector-borne diseases.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think that's the end of
Can
the
I,
question. Yeah.
yes, for now, people take time to type.
Sure, that's okay. I'm open to questions. If you want to send them to me even later, so you can put them up maybe under the. They can actually do it also under the video that you will post, and I will go back to it and I will attempt
That's
to
a
answer them.
great idea. That's a great idea. I posted the playlist link, and people can. I'm updating it every day so people can find the rest of the videos as well when they go up.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I was just thinking, for many of us, we've now seen decades of different kinds of conversations, starting from, I think maybe when we were in school and college, we would hear about deforestation. That was like one point, and then
Yeah.
pollution as in garbage and littering, and but sort of one very, now that we've left that behind so far that we can barely remember it. But we've seen this evolve alongside our own experience of a changed environment. I think that in picking this theme, for example, the reality of the weather outside my window is as much a factor as anything else, as some technical knowledge. Uh, do you want to reflect a little bit on some tangible markers that you have noticed over the years?
Yes. So earlier, environment, the most visible manifestation for most people was the trees, as you
Yeah.
mentioned. So if there's deforestation, everybody would attribute the lesser rain to that, the rising heat to that. Of course, they do impact,
Hmm.
but environment or climate as a totality, it wasn't seen as that. So the meteorologist's work was seen in isolation. Oh, they will just tell us what the weather is, and then aren't they supposed to do something else? No, they're not. But there is another. Then there are all these overlapping jurisdictions of science, as well as on ground implementation, which are now coming in sync. The South Asian, I will give you one example. The South Asian monsoon forecasting center, sends out the monsoon forecast in April.
Mm.
And yet, each year, we have seen the monsoon and the flooding happening in July. uh, we see a reactive response, that everybody then, either you're getting the heli drops of aid to the people who are stranded in flooded areas, or you're taking uh, the boats to bring relief or evacuate people. But why isn't anybody listening to what the call was given in April, and educate the community that this is what will happen to you in 2 3 months, this is what's going to happen to your area. uh, we boast of being very ready adapters to technology, and we somehow look for the more expensive or more technologically complex fixes, or they need to be early warning centers or early warning systems without which we won't know how to
Mm-hmm.
manage. No, everybody is looking at the weather on their phones, and the tele-density in all of South Asia is huge. Even in very, very remote areas, I'm not going to say that everybody has a phone, but at least every household has one, or every community may have one. Or earlier there used to be radios, the community radios, the FM services, to bring this kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we sort of leave behind the pluses and not adapt, and there's this gap occurring. The radio was seen as the medium of the future as and when the devices became small. A farmer would be working in the field, he would probably have the radio in his pocket and an earpiece and listen, so he could get the updates of the season,
Mm-hmm.
when to sow, when to harvest, what kind of measures to take. There are farmers information that used to be relayed on the radio. That same one device is now also a radio, also a real time weather station. So people need to be educated on how to also prepare themselves. And this, I think, is that the easiest fix. A large number of people call for education in climate change. In like in my country, there are a lot of a very, very large segment of the population does not have access to schools. So schools cannot be the only medium.
Mm.
There has to be non-formal education. There are the across South Asia, we have different names for them. Like you have the panchayat in India. There must be different names in different parts of India for a similar community group of people. And from our elders, we knew that not everybody was educated, but the one educated person in that community would read out the newspaper to everybody else who was gathered. Then, if there was one household which had a radio, people used to gather to hear the news on that. All people in the entire neighborhood. When television came, that is what we experienced. Not everybody could afford a television, but people would gather news time, or if some other announcement was being made, people would gather. So this information sharing mechanism, our word of mouth, and all those things, we mustn't let go of. Until and unless a total, some satellite system is in place which will inform each and every person that there's a storm coming and you will move out of here. There are a lot of things that can be done with the least amount of cost, because our social systems actually supported that kind of support. So we need to sort of take a step back and then do these things, because otherwise these push and pull things, you can't do these top down legislative measures only
Yeah.
until they are palatable to the communities.
Shamika has a question about what hope is there that regional organizations in South Asia will actively participate in climate action and promote cooperation in the region? And Deepak Gyavali has written a response that official SARC is comatose, however, people's SARC is alive and well. There's a comment from Riddhi on checking weather on the phone in the long hot summer in the UK. To these, I'm going to add one that takes you to your other earlier avatar or alternate avatar as a journalist. are we seeing in these last 10 years uh, major newspapers having now a climate change or a climate action beat? Are there, do we see that coming up in the region? Since
So
communication is a
yes
very
and
big
no.
part of
Yes and no. Earlier, of course, it was called a soft beat. You know, that go see what the minister of climate is saying, or there's some report launch and go and cover that. Yeah. But then, as and when the disasters have, the frequency of the disasters has happened, disaster reporting has overtaken the actual climate reporting. And this is what I'm saying, that
Hmm.
in the academia, now the understanding is pretty well established that climate change is not a science subject only, it is intersectional. And I train journalists. I've also taught journalism students at universities as a visiting faculty, and that is what I'm trying to bring over there as well. Okay, a business reporter can remain a business reporter and report things from a climate change angle. That how is the climate change impact on business? Like I mentioned, the poor air quality leads to aviation losses. You know, there's the flight disruptions that adds to billions. Uh, with my webinar on climate change communication hub, the Sri Lankan group that I spoke to you about, I just had to mention that I have a habit of bringing in cricket analogy because in my past life I was, associated with as a cricket journalist. And I said, just think, one big tournament. You have the IPL, we have the PSL, and there's the regional thing. We've had cancellations. Those cancellations have impacted people's livelihoods because it's not just the television rights. It's not just the people who are not able to access stadiums. If a tournament is cancelled, there are billions gone. So climate change and sports, climate change and science, climate change and business, climate change and you put on a gender lens, it completely takes on a different nuance. The same very disaster with which the whole village is impacted, when you put on a gender lens, you realize that the impacts are unjust. When you put a gender lens on, if you put on a lens of inclusion and disability, the social minorities, the religious minorities, the economic subgroups, it is unjust to them. What about the people with disabilities when they are not able to access aid that is being distributed during things? So unless and until all those points are plugged, and that can only happen if you keep taking that lens to look at that one same document, that water access is easier for those who can buy water, but it is a right. All constitutions, the UNHDR also, UDHR says it's a fundamental right, clean environment. Clean environment means clean water as well, clean air. So
Hmm.
unless and until we ensure and take all the measures, we are not ensuring justice.
Yeah.
So I urge all of the, whoever I'm speaking to just keep wearing different lenses and looking at the same question, same scenario, same thing, and you will see those things jump out at you, and only then can you start addressing them.
We're almost at the end of our time, so I will thank you very, very much again for agreeing to do this and for all of the insights that you've shared with us. Um,
I
I
would like
hope,
to thank you for the opportunity to engage, because as our one of the worry that our participant has voiced, that people, countries don't talk to each other. Are people talking? Definitely. Here we are,
yeah,
of different
yeah,
countries whose people, the power people in power don't talk to each other, but
yeah,
we are talking. And I think
yes.
this is, and what is more, by the way, let me just quickly put it over here because of the some of the resources I will put. The youth are talking. They do not know boundaries. They live in a connected world. They don't know rules, laws, regulations, boundaries, nothing. They connect with each other. I've seen them do it online. I've seen them do it physically at global forums. There's absolutely no boundary over there. So I think the next generation probably will fare much better than us and do better than us.
Yes, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Good.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
very much.
so much. Thank you
Thank
so much.